No. Modern medicine is superb. I'm a
Wow.
big fan.
Wow. Well, I just hit record. Shall we get started? Today is Wednesday, April 16th, 2025. It's my mother's birthday. I said good, happy birthday to my mother today. And we are doing Sahavas for everyone. The theme has been 12 ways of realizing me. We do one per month. And last time we did, because it's the fourth month, we did Desperation. And today we can either continue with that or we can shift it. We don't have to always do that because we did that once. Do you all, are you able to
We're
see?
the only ones in this group who went through it, so we're open.
Yeah, okay. So here's 12 ways of realizing me. Can you see the screen? And if it's one per month, it's the month of April. So that's 4. Desperation. If you experience that desperation that causes a man to commit suicide and you feel that you cannot live without seeing me, then you will see me. Yeah. And so we did this once and we had a great time, I thought. And certainly we can either focus on that from Mayor Baba, or I have some other ideas, or if somebody else wants to nominate an idea, I'm open to that too. I'm feeling very open and free right now. I did have a very strange dream last night, and I think that kind of set me up. But it's a journey, right? It's all a journey. So, what do you all feel like is best for tonight? Any thoughts?
I read something today that could be something.
We can't hear you very well, Ron.
Oh, I'm sorry. I keep on forgetting. I have to talk into this microphone.
Yeah, use the microphone.
I'm using a microphone instead because my speaker is bad, and this is a different kind of speaker thing. Anyhow, I've been reading the new book by Devana about Erich, and several times Erich is talking about his obedience to Baba and how on his own or on our own, I think he lumped everybody into this, thinking that the same was true for everyone, which is that on our own we really can't obey Baba. It's just too difficult. Some of the things that he would want us to do, we would not be able to understand it, and so it would be very, very difficult for us to obey him on our own. But fortunately, he says,
why
Baba,
is that?
What?
Why is that? Why can't we obey the orders on our own?
Well, we could talk about that, but I just wanted to finish the idea is that Baba makes us obey him. If we really want to, I think this is my part of it. If we really long to obey him and do our best, then he makes it possible. But it wouldn't be possible if he didn't provide us with that grace. So that's the thought, and I find it rather fascinating.
Didn't Baba ask Erich to come live with him, and Erich conjured up the spontaneous response, something like, by your grace, anything is possible, something like that?
Correct. That's a good example. That's probably the number one example.
I've got another one, which is that, I'm paraphrasing, but the quote was that love is a gift from God to man. Obedience is a gift from master to man. And surrender is a gift from man to master. And so, Ron, what you're saying actually aligns with the gift of obedience. That it's a gift.
Yes.
So we are listening to this from the center from October 2024. Devana was speaking, and we got home, and so we haven't finished. We're listening to it on a ride. But Erich had told Baba that he couldn't come on a trip to the West, and Baba ordered him to leave, pack up.
It wasn't that he couldn't.
He felt like he couldn't move and stand, and he'd weigh down Baba.
He said no to Baba about traveling to the West, but it was that he wouldn't, not that he couldn't. He refused to.
But it was because he couldn't, was my understanding, because he couldn't.
I don't think that's accurate, but we could reread it.
It doesn't.
I think what you were also saying is that he felt he would be a burden on
Mm.
Baba if
Exactly.
he did go, and so he was trying to think that what he felt about going was more important than what Baba, that fact that Baba wanted him to go, but Baba didn't really order him to go. He didn't.
Well,
he didn't
it
make it an
goes
order.
beyond that, Ron. So when Eric said no to Baba about the 1952 trip to the West, Baba said, okay, then I want you to go around India and give talks about me all over India.
That's right.
So then it turns out he probably got a more strenuous experience of traveling around India than if he had gone with Baba.
Way more.
And he did go around India and talk about Baba.
We didn't get to that part yet.
With Pendu.
I know.
Well, forgive me.
It's
Fran
fine.
and Mary,
I
for-
knew a spoiler alert would happen, not to worry. I
Forgive me
opened,
forgive me for jumping in and correcting, but I think the wouldn't go is more accurate.
okay,
Thank you.
Also, Baba asked him to be on the board of trustees of the Avatar Mayor Baba Trust in India, and Eric said no.
Well,
how does
Stacey,
someone who knows obedience is like the number one requirement have the audacity to say no? Or
well,
what?
Baba doesn't always give an order. Sometimes he does. He gives a request. I want you to do this, but he doesn't say
You have
do
to.
this. You know what I mean? Like an order. So
So,
it's a little different. He leaves it a little bit open for people to say their piece. You know.
so did you come to the part yet in the book about Eric wanting to go home from Guru Prasad because his house was nearby and there's raining really like a torrential rain? No?
No,
Well,
but you can tell. I don't mind hearing a story again.
well, you said you hadn't read it, so it's not again. Oh, you mean if you read it after I tell it?
Mhm.
No. I won't spoil it, but I'll just tell you that story which you're about to read about Baba and Eric about the rain at Guru Prasad and Eric going home in the rain. That's exactly what Ron is talking about. It might not have sounded like an order what Baba and Eric talked about, but there was something to it. So it's almost like reading between the lines.
You know, I like this. I like the idea that Baba would often hint at certain things that he wanted people to come to on their own in a way. And I heard a story from Adi Arjani, who was a Pakistani Baba lover. And they were good friends with Dolly and Rhoda and Adi Dubash. Those two families came to Baba's one of his darshan programs, and so Baba would met with them after lunch, and he said, "So what did you have for lunch?" And he said, "Chicken curry, Baba. We all had chicken curry. It's very delicious." "Oh, chicken curry! Wow, that's kind of a pricey dish, right?" He said, "Yes, Baba." And I said, "So." Then the next day he asked them again, "What did where did you go and what did you have for lunch?" And they said, "Chicken curry." He says, "Oh, wow, you're really spending some money." And they said, "Well, Baba, it's like, we're on vacation." "Uh-oh." "You're on vacation." Baba said, "You're on vacation, huh? Okay." So the next day they said they had the chicken curry again. They were not picking up on Baba, not pleasing Baba by eating all this expensive meal and thinking that they were on vacation rather than on pilgrimage to Baba. This is the way I sensed it from Adi Arjani. And the order came down: both families must never eat chicken again. This is Baba's order: never eat chicken again, period. So
Babe,
Mhm.
it's,
Yeah.
you got to really kind of get a feel for it. But I think he wants us to grow up, and,
Yeah.
and learn his ways and get a feel for him.
Did I tell you guys the story about the dream I had about the Baba on the bus? Did I ever tell you that? No, you want to hear that? It might be relevant here. I had a dream. You know those giant buses, like Greyhound buses, that are the front of the bus is basically flat. The windshield. It's not even like they didn't even bother to make it streamlined. It just looks like a box. And I'm driving that bus, one of these giant Greyhound buses with the big flat windshield. I'm in the driver's seat, and they've got that handle to open the big door so people can get on. It was just exactly like that. And the bus in front of me is exactly the same. It's the same kind of bus, except I know when I'm driving my bus that Baba's in the bus in front of me. I know it. And that Baba had given me the order to follow his bus. So I was driving. We're both driving. Both buses are driving. And I was driving about, probably a good clip, maybe 50 miles an hour. And is that Etienne Becker?
Yes.
Jay Baba. Jay Baba. I'm just telling a story. Jay
Yes, sir.
Baba. And so I'm driving the bus, and Baba's bus slows down and pulls over to the side. So, of course, Baba had told me to follow his bus. So I drive and I pull over to the side and I pull my bus up. I think probably like maybe a foot and a half, because the front is so flat. I just wanted to be as close as I could to Baba's bus. And the back of Baba's bus had a big glass window. And Baba walked all the way back to the back of his bus. So he's at his window and I'm at my window. So we're like 2 feet apart. But because of the windows and the whole situation, he held up a note and held it against the window like this so I could read it. And I opened the door to go off my bus and onto his bus, and I stopped before I got off the bus. And I'm on the stairs and I'm like, what am I doing? He didn't tell me to come onto his bus. He just, like, I'm making that up in my mind. I just said, I'm making that up. He never said come to his bus. He just held up this note. So I went back up to the seat and I read the note. And the note said, I want you to help me with my, and then there was a name, B-E-T-H, Beth, B-E-T-H, my Beth. And then I woke up and I was like, he wants me to help him with his Beth. Who the hell is Beth? I had no idea who Beth was. And I went through all the Beths that I know or had ever known. And I was so confused. I was just like, well, I have no idea who Baba's talking about. Ron, you can imagine, right? I mean, it was so clear. It was like black and white note right in front of my face. I want you to help me with my Beth. Well, then a few days later, my phone rings. Some of you might know a Baba lover named Norma Nunzig up in New York. No? Beautiful Baba lover. Anyway, I knew her, and she called me on the phone. And I said, oh, Beth, oh, Norma, what are you doing? And she said, oh, I just called you because I have a situation I want to talk to you about. And I said, what's going on? She said, well, I've been trying to introduce my friend Beth to Baba. And I had an intuition that I need you to speak with her, Laurent. And I thought, what did you say her name is? And she said, oh, it's my friend Beth. And I knew. I was just like, oh my God. So I said, of course I will help. So she put Beth in touch with me. Now, here was the interesting thing. I'd never even met or heard of Beth, but obviously Baba set me up. So I said, hi, Beth, how can I help you? And she said, well, I want you to do something for me, Laurent. And I said, well, what is it? And she said, I want you to write your story of your spiritual experience, but stop when you get to the part where you learn about Mayor Baba. So I said, let me get this straight. You want all my spiritual experience up until Mayor Baba, but not including Mayor Baba. She's like, right. From the point that you get to learn about Mayor Baba, stop. So I said, whatever you want, Beth. I'll do whatever you want. Because Baba had set me up. And then, so I wrote it all out. Right up until the point I heard Baba's name. Then I stopped. I put the pen down. And Jean Shaw, you know Jean Shaw, Darwin's wife, had handed me a universal message in her house. And she said, this universal message was touched and blessed by Mayor Baba. And she gave it to me. I was 17 years old. And she gave it to me. So I put that universal message with my writing in an envelope and I sent it to Beth. Never heard from her again. But you know what? It doesn't matter because I did what she and Baba had said. The rest is none of my business. So that's the story. Etienne, welcome. We haven't had you on before, so welcome. I'm so happy to see you. Does everybody know Etienne? Etienne, you know everybody?
Shalom.
Some of the
מה
people.
שלומך?
בסדר, תודה.
Are you in Israel?
Yes,
Awesome.
I just happened to wake up in the middle of the night. It's 2:20 in the morning.
I'm so happy to see you, brother.
That's when Baba says you've got to sign on to Baba Zoom.
Especially during Pesach.
So, Etienne, we can talk about anything. And also, because it's April, the theme has been 12 ways of realizing me. We do one each month. So if you want to know about the theme, we can talk about that. Because it's April, it's the 4th month, it's desperation. If you experience the desperation that causes a man to commit suicide, and you feel that you cannot live without seeing me, then you will see me. Have you heard that 12 ways of realizing me? I'm sure you have.
Yes,
It's an extremely powerful message.
just a minute.
All right, what shall we share about next? Did you like that dream?
I was thinking that Baba put up, he might have, his handwriting might not have been that good, and he wanted you to help him with his bath. But you know, it probably was Beth. Now that that woman Beth called you, but I think he might have
I
been.
would love to help Baba with his bath. That sounds fantastic.
And you never got tempted to call your friend to say, hey, I spoke with Beth. Did you get any feedback?
Oh, that's you.
I know
You know-
that's me.
You know what I came to a long time ago was, I don't know how I came upon this, but that when he has us do something, when Baba has, this is just my own experience. So I'll make it more personal instead of the we language. If Baba has me do something, anything, the less I know about the results, the better for me. That's how I feel. It's none of my business. It's Baba's business.
Yeah, and we've been talking a lot on Zoom about how we talk to non-Baba lovers about Baba. And it came out that it's simple. All we do is say Baba's name. Baba says, once they hear my name, I will take the next steps.
Yeah, I think the quote was, it's your job to bring my name to somebody's ear, but it's my job to take it from their ear to their heart.
So every spam call I get, I answer it, Jai Mera Baba.
Can I
And
tell
I do it a few times, and then they hang up or I hang up.
Can I tell a little story about that I think is relevant? I was once on the train. Did I ever tell you this on the train? If I told you this, you got to tell me if you heard this already.
Well, not everybody would have heard it either.
Well, I don't know. So I was on an Amtrak train. You know how that can go. You're on a train maybe for hours or even days. This was a long train ride. And I met a beautiful young man. We were just tired of sitting, so we were standing and talking. And of course, he's going somewhere and I'm going somewhere else where we wouldn't be on a train. So I asked him, like, where are you headed? He said, well, I'm going to seminary. I've decided I want to study in seminary and become a priest, you know. I thought, wow, that's great. So I encouraged him. I said, that's fantastic, you know. And he was very sincere, but probably in his like early 20s, you know. And he looked at my Baba necklace, because I usually wear a Baba necklace, and he said, so who is that? And he had just told me he's going to seminary. So I wanted to respond in a way that was honest, but also sensitive to the situation, you know? So I said, oh, that's Meher Baba. And he said, well, who is Meher Baba? So I said, well, he's the one who lived the life of Christ so fully and completely that he inspired me. He lived that life. And he said, he looked at me and he said, I need to learn more about him.
And
That's it. I never, there's no and. So we're back to it's like the Buddhist version of the story, right? Or the European movie, where the European movie ends and there's no closure. You never know what happens to anybody at the end of a European movie, because they don't make movies like that. There's no happy ending. There's no knowing. But I knew, like you just said, I said Baba's name and I told him honestly who Baba is for me. If I had said he's the new Christ, he might have been shocked, you know, or said like, that's impossible, or, you know, walked away in a huff. I don't need to say something that's going to be disturbing.
did you ever give that answer since then?
Never.
That description?
Never.
It's a good one.
Thanks. Well, it's also true. It's not just good, it's the truth, but it's the truth.
Say
And
it again. He's the one who lived Christ's life so fully.
Well, because he was going to seminary to be a Christian priest. I said, he's the one who lived the life of Christ so thoroughly and completely that he totally inspired me by his example. And that's absolutely true. But I didn't have to say he's the avatar or a perfect master or God in human form or the new Christ. I just didn't have to say that. I could have, right? And you know what Erich said when he was being asked all the time who is Meher Baba? He went back to Marizad, and Baba said, how did it go when you were talking about, you know, me and all that? And he said, well, it went great, except there was one question I couldn't answer properly. And Baba said, what question? He said, well, they would constantly ask, who is Meher Baba? I didn't know how to answer them. So Baba said, you don't know how to answer? You just say this. He's the one who has evoked this question in you, the being of all beings. So Erich said that's the answer to the question. And I use that sometimes, but I'm not going to use that all the time. I'm going to be sensitive to who I'm talking to. Yeah. You want to hear one more? So I was giving a seminar down in Florida at my friend's house, Licia. Licia is from Peru. So her friends she has all these Latina friends, and they're all Catholic. So I was giving a seminar on forgiveness with Meher Baba at her house. And I said to Licia, where are we going to sit? And she told me where we're going to sit. And I said, okay, if we're sitting here, I want a big picture of Baba right here in front of the television. Just put a picture here. And she looked at me, Licia, she's like, but then what, how are we going to explain Baba? And she got all nervous because they're Catholic. Her friends, they're going to come over and learn about forgiveness, but how are we going to explain who's Baba? And she was so nervous. And I said, Licia, relax. You don't have to say anything. Let me deal with it. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I wanted her to relax. So we're sitting there and all her friends come in, and they're all these very beautiful, wonderful Latina women of all ages and very spiritually minded, all Catholic. And one of them looks at me and says, well, who's that? And she's pointing right at Baba. And for the life of me, I can't even remember what I said, but I said something spontaneously. And she goes, oh, he's just love. And I said, that's right. Baba can defend himself. He doesn't need us to explain and defend and apologize. That's my experience. All right, I've talked too much. Somebody else.
Diane, do you remember the story that Jeff told at the chat? Well, wait a minute. I guess only Laurent wasn't there. Rich would remember that story about the little boy that he showed Baba's picture to.
No, tell us.
Okay, well, it was a good story. Do you want to tell it, Rich? Do you want to tell it? Or
Remember, I'll let you tell it, but I
all
remember,
right, all right.
I remember
Well,
the
this-
little boy was real
Yeah,
rambunctious.
he was the son of a woman that Jeff was friendly with in Seattle. So he was, you know, he had been with Baba for a short while, I guess, at that point. But he had hurt himself and wasn't getting around very well because, heck, when he was a young guy, man, I remember watching him do calisthenics and not calisthenics, but like acrobatics. I don't know if anybody ever else saw that, but he and his friend Denny Moore used to do these tumbling routines that were unbelievable. I mean, were really well done. Anyhow, he was restricted to just sitting on a chair, and this kid, this young boy, 5 or 6 years old, wanted to play, and he kept on wanting it to play with him. And the only thing Jeff could think of was to send him off to find some particular thing or whatever. And so he would tell him, well, go see if you can find this, you know, and then the kid would come back and, yeah, I found it, you know, and then something else. And it was just going on and on and on. And Jeff was running out of steam on this game. And so finally, when he came back, Jeff thought to himself that he had this Baba card on him. And so he showed him the Baba card as something different than go find this. And he looked at the Baba card, and Jeff said, "Do you know who this is?" And the kid said, "Him's the daddy of everybody." Him's the daddy of everybody. And so he just was so matter of fact about it that Jeff didn't say anything. And but the next time he was with him, he had a different Baba card with him, because that original Baba card was from the 50s, and Baba was going like this. And he brought one where it was from the 30s when Baba was young. And he thought he would show him this picture where Baba looked a little different, you know? And so he showed him this picture and he says, "Do you know who this is?" He says, "I told you, him's the one that loves everybody." And I just thought that was marvelous.
That's a great story.
Out of the mouths of babes, right?
I got something that it's a question coming up within me.
Go ahead.
I've always been kind of looking inward in different ways at my own psychology and reactions, but not necessarily functionally, but just looking inwardly. Part of which was always designed, I think, in my case, to escape from the limit of being me. And that's a very difficult thing to do because you can't, right? At least so how do you cope with being you? Now, how this all came up in my karma and psychology, I don't really know all the details. But of course, it's from my archaic incarnations. But this whole thing, now that I've been limited to my movements and with my pain and with the pain medicine, my range of activities and abilities to do anything is kind of almost gone, except do the very basics: lay down on the bed, get up from the bed, blah, 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 blah. I can't even bend over, you know, to pet my dog. So what's been persistent in this experience for solid 2 weeks has been this form of like psychological isolation from being able to be myself in the world around me. All my old habits or whatever I like to do, even at my older age, range of motions and blah, blah, blah. So what's happened is I began, I guess, questioning Baba about this. It's not really intellectual, I don't think, but it's, you know, I don't know how else to describe it. But at one point, I even got to the point of I said, "Baba, who are you?" You know?
That's a good question, by the way.
And I don't really know, you know, but I know he's the avatar, and I've known since I heard his name, you know, it's basically, you know how that is. And But so when you're at your limit, I often feel a great deal of empathy. And of course, in my condition, I feel sorry for myself a little bit. But for people who've been injured to the point where they become lifelong limited, and with this question of, well, I could have done this, could have done that. But now for me, it's more like, what is my ego? Because I still don't really quite understand ego. I can understand individuality. I have a sense of myself. But then again, as far as for me, not everyone else, but for me, I've always had to have sort of, seems to me, soft boundaries where I could experience what part of it is to be somebody else. So I'm talking to them, and whether it's a male or female, and there's a different parts to all this, but the bottom line is when you're on your own, just alone, and there's Baba, it's like, it's just a big question. It's like a tea stewing on the stove, and anyway, that's my story for right now.
It's a great story. It sounds like you're questioning two things. It sounds, if I could do some reflective listening, it sounds like you're questioning who is Baba, and it sounds like you're questioning also kind of at the same time, who is Rich?
Yep,
Those are great questions.
for sure. That last one's for sure, because I put together an amalgam with my ego. Oh, what can I do in this situation or with these people? At our stage of spiritual advancement, we all have the ability to fit in quite easily or well, probably, in lots of situations, lots of different personalities, lots of different social venues. But the bottom line is all those drop away when you're limited to yourself, just yourself, or Baba and yourself, And so obviously to us, and part of the story I'm not telling, because it's very difficult for me to fathom as well, is what is love? And I'm a little bit, I always have been befuddled on what love is. I have learned, at least in this life, I can see it in dogs. I can feel it. I can feel love for dogs, and dogs reflect back to you. So they give you love, so that feels good. And you can try to care for them. But I've advanced a little, at least intellectually. Love has to involve some form of caring for others. Who are they and all this? But I'm not equipped to go that much further, I don't think, in a lot of ways.
Well, thank you for sharing that. It sounds like a very vulnerable sharing. It sounds like you're really suffering right now.
It's just part of the path, it's part of what people go through off and on. And Baba, I know in my life, he always seems to be pushing the limits, you're not supposed to get all satisfied, with the status quo and just right. And I don't know how Baba lovers who, I don't know how you say successful Baba lovers, but for Baba lovers who can ride the curve, the wave with Baba, stay in that chute on the curve. I've never been a surfer, but those Baba lovers, for some reason, I have it in my head that I admire them. And I don't know a lot about other people that I can describe, but for me, it's more a matter of feeling, not feeling as if I'm in creation, experiencing Baba and rolling with it, I don't know if that's even possible. I don't know, or with me. I had a very unusual experience, and I don't know why I'm going to say this because it's never happened to me before. This is really rare for you guys. I don't know, but for me. So there's a woman on the late night Arctic who's there pretty regularly, and we like each other, but we don't share anything personal. There's no phone calls really. There's none of that kind of stuff. But you can just tell once in a while, and because you can sense some of who someone is over the Zoom here, it's pretty cool. But anyway, the other night, people were, expressing whatever poetry or singing a little this and that, and I looked right at her, and all of a sudden her eye caught mine on a Zoom screen. So imagine, is this fantasy? Plus I've got these drugs going through my brain, right? You know, a little codeine, there it is now, codeine, Jesus, can't get it out. But anyway,
Across a crowded Zoom.
yeah. So I'm looking at her eye and I thought, well, it was kind of like suddenly I thought, my mind, she was looking at me. And I actually believe that. Like I can see Terry now once in a while, her eyes will raise up and I think she's looking right into my eyes. But so this happened and I looked away because I thought, well, this is another strange admission, Laurent, very strange. You guys, I think there's a part of me that doesn't want to be seen by other people. I don't know, I won't call it shyness. I think it's more like let's pretend for a moment that you have a hidden self. It's very precious, very, very precious. And you don't want to share it. You know, you could analyze it like, well, you've been hurt, or this is that has happened, or you don't know how to deal with the world properly. And all those things could be true. But the bottom line is, I've only felt truly comfortable with that. My trust in anyone is with a sure feeling of trust. If I have a feeling of trust, and of course, I'm always testing that. So, but in this case, on the Bob Artie Zoom, we've developed quite a bond of, I don't know what it is, Diane and Terry can speak to, but just Baba friendship. It's as if we're all in this little Baba family, right? So we see each other as being Baba lovers first, and then as being people with lives and personality. In the middle of all that, so I'm looking at her in her eyes on Baba Zoom. And suddenly I'm looking at her, and suddenly I know, God, she's looking right through me. I don't know if this is real or not, Lauren. I admit it. I can't say. I don't know. Nothing to verify it. But suddenly it's like she's looking right through me, and I'm going. And then I start feeling this overwhelming power of the only thing I can call it is union. And I don't know how or what it is, and she didn't turn her eyes away, and I didn't turn mine away. It was as if we were just I. It was just I and I. That's it. Never experienced that before in my whole life, ever.
UIEI or which I?
Both I self, just the I self, moving right through our vision of each other.
Okay.
And that's it. I don't. The only reason I'm telling you a story is because it was. It's probably I think it's a part of my coming forward into Baba in creation that I don't even know is possible. See, I don't know if that makes sense. It's just, I'm describing some psychology here that's part of me, but also I was a little druggy and I still am right now, but not
That's
terrible.
okay. It's okay. You don't have to apologize. So a couple things. Can I respond to that? A couple things I heard you say, like you were questioning who am I? Who is Rich? Right.
Mhm.
I think it's really important, especially if you read a lot of Baba's discourses and God Speaks. It's really important to understand Baba's terminology and also like the roots of it. I think it's important. So, does anybody here know what the word ego means in Latin? It's a Latin word. It means I. The letter I, like I, my, me, mine. It means the name of the self is ego. I. So
I-
Baba was super duper clear about it, right? He said the human being who's not God realized experiences a limited false self. And he says what happens in God realization is the I remains, believe it or not. He said the I remains, but it identifies with the reality instead of with the limited false. And then it changes from the human experience to I associating with God, and it becomes I am God. And he calls that the unlimited real ego. It's very interesting. So he said there's still the I, but the I knows it's the only one. And like they asked Ramana Maharshi something, they said, Master, how shall we treat others? And Ramana Maharshi said, there are no others. And I thought that was so incredible because it removes the duality and it becomes the non-dual that Baba lives in all the time, right? And Baba said, in me, I feel free, but in you, I feel bound.
Well, that's what, when it happened, I know that I was kind of thinking that, but I've never experienced anything like that before. I mean,
Well, you had some sort of experience.
I guess, and I just know it happened, and I know I wasn't fantasizing or thinking anything. This was just
Yeah.
consciousness.
Yeah.
Well,
Can
thank
I
you.
can I tell a tiny story that I think is kind of relevant to that? But Etienne, we rarely see you, so I want you to share too. Etienne knows a lot, you guys. So don't be bashful, Etienne.
I can tell you a few Baba stories if so you really. I told most of my stories during my talks on Baba Zoom. It's all recorded there. But,
Well, don't be bashful. And we're very fortunate to have my wife Vanessa on the call too. Hi, Vanessa.
okay.
I was just going
And
to tell a tiny story that I think is relevant here, if it's okay. Or do you have
sorry,
one, Etienne? Do you have one?
you talking to me?
Yeah, Etienne, do you have a story, or should I go ahead?
I have plenty of stories.
You want to tell one now, or should I tell one?
Can I tell us a Baba story? So I can say Baba walked into my life during 1972 when I came to see Kerry Ben Shammai's first disciple in Israel. And instantly, as soon as I looked at his picture, became Baba realized. It's not God realized. I knew he's to the fullest extent more than what I know now. It
You had
was
Baba
vivid.
realization? You got Baba realization?
Yes, I'm Baba realized. This is not God realization. What it means is that I knew he is better than what I know today because I had the experience. After I came out of her humble room, I walked in the street of Jerusalem and I was quite stunned. I didn't see, before I went there, it was all evil and all these demons, two-legged demons everywhere, bad people, egoists. I was not much better than when I got out of that room. I didn't see any evil. I saw only angels. I was totally stunned. I looked at the world. I looked at the people. I didn't see people. I saw only angels. I saw only divine beings. Everywhere was overwhelmed. Now, what happened after this? After a few weeks, I said to myself, I would like to resign to this incredible being, whatever it is, whatever he is. And as soon as I had some kind of inward ceremony, from where this came to me is this surrenderance nature. It was a surrenderance, but I didn't know what it is. I didn't have didn't read any material whatsoever about anything. I didn't know. I hardly spoke English. My English was quite rudimentary in those days. I just started to study English. And my communication with Bar was in Hebrew. Today it's in English. But at that time, as when I surrendered to him, he started to work on my inner subconscious set, started to erase some scars. And to erase some scars is quite a painful, this is quite an issue. Baba speaks about this wonderfully in his talks about the ego and its termination and the problems of sanskara. These are 6 basics discourses, which is a must read for all of us. I read them maybe 50 times because I had to, by Kerry's order, I had to translate the discourses of Baba into Hebrew, which took me about 20 years or so of work and more. And eventually it was published. Anyway, as soon as I started from 1976, for whatever reason, it's a very endless, many stories in between, but I cannot get to it. It's too long and many stories I cannot tell. Anyway, it's too disturbing.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful story.
Can I continue a little bit if you want?
Yeah, I love hearing you talk, of course.
Okay, from 76, a circumstance came up, and I had to start to learn to deal with sanskaras. I didn't know what sanskaras at that time, and I didn't know what to do. I got in some kind of mental loop. I didn't know what to do, mental emotional loop. I couldn't get out of it. And then Baba walked in on his own accord and started to give me tutorials how to deal with sanskaras. And after 25 years, if you would go into my website, there is an Israeli Baba website, call it meirbabaisrael.com. And there is a story, there are all kinds of stories. And one of the stories is a heart maintenance. After 25 years of working with all these sanskaras, I came to the realization I should share it with the community because it's really working. And from 76 to 91, Baba would give me daily tutorials how to deal with this. It was something very personal. And after that, he started to withdraw until his presence almost disappeared. And they said that eventually you have to stay on your own, going to very long periods of gray periods, and you have to survive the odds on your own. Disappears, many simply drift, walk away. Want to stay in the spiritual kindergarten to be carried away like babies from his back. Now, what is all this story about erasing sanskaras? And he said, you have to give it everything, because you have to give it to me. You sitting on my head 24/7. Each time there was something coming up, give it to me. So as if I would take the thing, whatever, some past memory, whatever would come up in my mind, I would give it to him, as long as it takes, many times every day, non-stop. And he was insistent to give it to me, give it to me, give it all the time. I would, don't stop, because it became more and more excruciating. All kinds of devils and demons started to emanate from my subconscious mind. And it was quite horrendous. It reached a certain point, he turned his key, it became non-humane at all, but it was being held physically, so I could withstand the process, which took, never stopped actually, but simply got used to it. And one day, sometimes I would ask him questions which he didn't like, and often I would receive from him some kind of sharp replies like stick your nose into your days and just do your work. There's no need to question. But one day I did dare to ask a question, why you need me, some piece of cosmic dust, to collect all these impressions and give it to you? But you are in everywhere, deal with it. Well, you need me. I said, as when people don't surrender to me, I cannot deal with them. So you have surrendered to me till a certain degree. He didn't tell me why more, but the very fact that he was willing to deal with me, so I accepted this till a certain degree. And he said, as soon as you give me these impressions, you act as a proxy. Then I can deal with this people. Only after you give it to me. So it became a very serious issue, for example. Even the results, giving all the impressions of my family, Holocaust survivors, a very dysfunctional family, disturbed like most of us here. These non-stop wars, which I was recruited from 66 till 94, 95, I was a field fighter in the Israeli army, as it is being forced on all of us. All the time we're here till now, when our neighbors want to exterminate this little speck of a country. They cannot tolerate it. I don't. So what I was doing, also giving all these impressions to others, both Israeli and Arabic impressions to him. so he can deal with it. So what he's doing is just behind the veil. I have no idea. It's not only these impressions, but everything. It's a very hard lesson for all of us. That and he said it to me very clearly. As long as people don't surrender to me, I cannot violate their free will. I leave them alone till they will come and surrender. So I have to drop everything, but I cannot make it for anyone. And for example, from 1980, Carrie Ben Shammai had to leave Jerusalem because she became disabled. And I took care of her a year old, fully. At 79, she ordered me to take her to Meir. For the last time she went there, she wanted to stay in Meir. I remember she was crying to money. She wants to stay there. She said, it's not possible. You have to go back to Israel. And as soon as she came back to Israel, she was confined to a wheelchair. And for a full year, I took care of her. Twice a day, I would come there, bring her breakfast, evening, taking care of her, put her on the toilet. I was really her servant. And she didn't like my person. She didn't. I never told her that I became Barbarilla as soon as I went there. I didn't tell her anything about, and she didn't know this. In 1990, I had to take her all her library, it's just behind her, all these thousands of books and many items, personal items of Baba, and many items we have here. Baba touched it, you know this. I have all the exchange of Baba and Carrie and her letters to him, and I started to receive from the archive the letters that she sent to Baba to complete the picture. And Baba gave very special attention to Israel. He was very concerned about this. Something very unique. I can see it from his letters to Carrie. And Carrie had to give all her treasures to some Israeli boy from the street who never told her that he knows who is Meir Baba. I never told her until she passed away. Why? Because she never let me the opportunity of telling her anything. She was talking non-stop. That's another peculiar Baba stuff. And the peculiarity of Carrie is that she was running all over Israel to proclaim Meir Baba, Meir Baba. If she could go in the street and shout Meir Baba. And I'm totally the opposite. But as soon as I got this center, I felt the impulse to translate the Baba material into Hebrew. And this was a long process. I did it till the early 2000s. There was some Baba group used to get together. Sometimes it was between 10 to 20 and more or less. And then from 2004, the whole thing was dispersed. I almost have no communication with anyone. And personally, I don't care. There's a large amount of Baba material translated into Hebrew. And the only one who also took steps is our Michal Namo. She adopted the name that Bauji gave her. And the others, I don't know, they all disappeared. I have no communication with them whatsoever. Even don't want to meet during Zoom meetings. Sure, nothing. And I don't care about this because it shines me that this none of my business. What's happening? You work for me, not for. And I have no expectations. One of the issues he consumed before 1980 till 79 for 3 years. Had to undergo a process, so I lost any concern whatsoever about the results of doing any work. It's none of my business at all. The people sometimes ask me, you don't care there's no Baba Center? It's none of my business. I'm not the one to turn the key. I cannot, I don't know. I don't have the authority to give people the experience of love as he gave it to me. Nobody has it. He placed me in various spiritual groups and they are doing a great job that we are not doing, the Baba lovers. Really doing a good job. For example, here in Israel, Anthropos office and others, and we have Jewish circles who do spiritual work. that all of us, all Bavalavas in the world, don't know how many, let's say million, 1 million people, they don't do what a group of spiritual Jewish mystics are doing in Jerusalem. Because I touched some of them. I didn't get involved with this. I have been writing also. I don't know if you're getting into my, almost every week I give a Zoom talk on the book of Genesis. And there is influence in Merabah. 2006, I started to write interpretation of the book of Genesis, and all the theme of creation, of God speaks, has been encapsulated in the book of Genesis. The theme of creation, Moses was an expert in this, an expert in he was working with Avatar. The Avatar gave him all this knowledge. They're working together. The Avatar came with Abraham. He was working with Master Moses. Abraham was working to him on this so-called Mount Sinai, whether it was a real mountain or a spiritual plane, it doesn't matter. But
Thank you,
yeah,
Edson. Thank
you're
you.
welcome.
Diane and Terry, did you have a response to all that? That was a lot of information.
Go ahead.
It was great to hear. Thank you, Etzion. Very beautiful.
To have that kind of clarity at 3 a.m. is Jai Baba.
I was having a little hard time picking up the English through your accent, Etienne. I could hear some of it.
You know what it means? I know what it means. It means, Etienne, you have to write a book of all your experience because this is very valuable experience.
I do. I've been writing a few books,
Yeah.
and I'm aware of that I have an accent, but still give talks to whomsoever is willing to what is an interpretation of the book of Genesis in English, read it to the community. A few people are willing to look at it, and hopefully one day we'll take a book from. I wrote it in Hebrew, of course. And you cannot translate the Hebrew Bible into any other language. You cannot, it's not possible. What's the translation? For example, what it's in the beginning. It's not in the beginning, it's a Big Bang. The very first word of Genesis, Bereshit in Hebrew, is not in the beginning, it is, I experienced it in Merabah, in a vision, so-called, supposedly, inside, within myself, the spiritual being, that manyness was differentiated, exploded into the oneness, exploded to manyness. That's what it is. This is the first word. It's all the translations. They have no idea whatsoever. And all the data in the universe has been encapsulated in the first verse of Book of Genesis. If you understand how to read the very first verse, that's the whole knowledge has been encapsulated. You don't need to read anything. The rest of the book, all the books are interpretations of the very first verse of Genesis, including
I think you
Bubbles.
should write a book.
I do.
Good.
I've been translating it into English, and then hopefully one day it will be. I'm looking for ways to make it available for the public.
Great. Awesome. Well, let me know if I can,
Sorry?
let me know if I can help you in any way.
Yes, I would like to. I was thinking about you, by the way, because you're also a publisher, and I was thinking how to place this book on Zoom. So maybe I'll send you.
Yeah, send it.
Would like to look at it?
Yeah, of course. I love your writing.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just finishing up my new book about love. So, Rich, I can send you a gift copy if you wish. There's 49 chapters about love. You wanted to talk about love and understand more about love. There's quite a bit about love in this new book. It's called Love with Beloved Meher Baba. I can send you a copy.
I can purchase it. I'll just see it online. It's probably in Shuri or online.
As soon as I publish it, it's just about, we're in layout and design right now. So it should be ready, Baba willing, by the fall.
Okay. Right.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you.
So last thoughts and feelings. I want to give Ron, Diane and Terry, Rich, Ralph, any last thoughts and feelings, because we're going to wrap it up here soon.
I've got something goes back to Rich's original question, I think.
Yeah,
'cause
go ahead.
That's when I thought of it. There were two things. One, Erich would always say, and basically it seemed like he was trying to remind us and urge us to, and this is what he would say, be determined to be his. So when you're thinking about what to be or who you are, being his is a good choice, I think. I like it. So be determined to be his. And then Baba himself, it's I can't remember what book it's in, but he says, "Don't worry, my love will give you that strength and conviction that you belong to God."
Do you have a source for that? I'd love to read that again.
Let's see. Might be in the Everything and the Nothing, or Life at Its Best. One of those books, I think.
Can you email me that, Ron? I love that. The quote. The way you just.
Hold on a second. I actually I have a song that I set to it. So in my book here, it'll say where I found it.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love that quote.
Yeah, there's another one that goes along with it. Let me see if I can find that right away.
Well, while he's looking, anybody else have anything?
Well, I was, like I said, with Etienne, Etienne, I heard the first part of where, when you first heard of Baba, you came out of a temple or something and you saw that angels were everywhere. When you looked at humans, you saw angels everywhere. That's pretty astounding.
Came out from the Baba room of Kerry Ben Shammai in Jerusalem.
It was a Baba temple, the Baba place of Kerry Ben Shammai.
Of course, I didn't know that such a thing existed. Somebody directed me to this place. My first station in spirituality, I was not looking for spirituality, it was all accidental. It was a total chain of inevitable coincidences. Eventually, it led me to anthroposophical group in Tel Aviv of Rudolf Steiner, which I didn't understand a word. I felt compelled to come to their meetings. And they were in Tel Aviv, and I was living and working in Jerusalem. Every week I was taking a bus to Tel Aviv, attending the meeting. And the sense because it's going, you have to learn a new language. And after this, one of the guys that started to help me and after the meetings, he would take me out and give me explanations. And after half a year, he looked at me one day and said, "There's a woman in Jerusalem I think you should meet." And he gave me the telephone number of Kerry Ben Shammai. And the rest is history.
Ralph, you have
Sorry,
your hand up?
I do, thank you. Something just occurred to me. And I have some very fine suspects here who might be able to help fill in some blanks. And this is history. Scientists and a lot of academians, people who are professors, and publish it, professors of religion. It seems in most cases, Abraham gets dated like about 3,000 years before Jesus. I think it must, I don't think And I wondered what you guys might feel, if y'all have, and this I'll share regarding Abraham. That Eric shared, and I tried to pursue it further, but he himself confessed ignorance. But that Baba had intimated or said or intimated that Abraham and Zoroaster were around the same time. But science, archaeologists, and the guys who dig in the dirt out there,
Yeah.
facts, can find no physical evidence of Zoroaster's life.
So I'll tell you what Baba
Fine.
told Eric. He said, because there's a very long conversation about it, but I'll tell you the gist of it.
All right.
Erich was taking down the highest of the high message. And in the highest of the high message, Baba lists the avatars: Zarathustra, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad. And Erich stopped and turned to Baba and said, "Why did you leave out Abraham?" Baba gave a very strange answer, but the gist of it, according to Erich, was Baba said, "Well, you see, what happened was when Zarathustra passed away, his followers were looking for his return.
Yeah.
And they looked everywhere. And it so happened that eventually they found Zoroaster returned in Abraham. They recognized Abraham as the return of Zarathustra. And they didn't call him Abraham, they called him Zarathustra." That's what Baba said. So
Was
Eric
there a
confirmed that,
time of this, when we say those people,
yeah,
yeah, was that maybe a few hundred, that search, or I guess they might call them Sufis, sort of fits their behavior maybe, like would have occurred over through some generations, or
yeah,
just
generations,
one group of dedicated people who struck
generations,
find a master, to find a living master.
generations looking for the return of the prophet Zarathustra, and they said they recognized his return when they met Abraham, and they
Yeah.
didn't call him. Baba said they didn't call him Abraham; they called him Zarathustra again. Those people, but Erich confirmed in that story that Abraham was the avatar.
yeah. Oh, did he? Yeah. Yeah, I always, Baba usually doesn't, and he doesn't get on the list in most cases. You're right.
Well, Baba has strange ways of doing things, and it's a very unusual story. Anyway, that's what I heard and understood. Thank you, Ron, for giving the Lord Mayhair page number. Is that the printed copy or the online copy?
I'm not sure.
You're not sure? I'll find it. If you can just type an email to me with what you remember, I'll find it in Lord Mayhair, because you remembered a lot of it. That'll be awesome.
Okay.
Laurent?
I'll send you an email.
What?
Laurent?
I'll send you an email.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ron. I love that quote. I'm thinking of putting it in my new book because I'm about to publish this new book on love, and it would really fit nicely in there.
Laurent, can you send me an email? Because your email in my old computer, it's really broken. It might be hard to open it.
Yeah, can you go into the chat, Etzion, and put your email address? Because I have two. I've got the Etzion48 at 012, and I've got EtzionB at Gmail.
Etzion48.
You want the 48?
Yes, please.
I'm sending you right now so you can see if it works.
Okay.
All right. Final thoughts and feelings before we wrap up tonight. Etzion, it's so great to see you, by the way. I just have to say that again. It's great to see your face.
Thank you.
It's always great to see Ron and Rich and everybody else, but it's very, very rare to get Etienne on Zoom. I have to tell you, very rare.
You get up around 4
Yeah, you can.
a.m. on Saturday morning. I think Etienne, you can get a look at it. On Baba's
Yeah.
Zoom. On Baba's Zoom, yeah.
I didn't get you. I'm sorry.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording, and